Yes, you read that title correctly. Malware for Macs has been on the rise, according to a study conducted by Atlas VPN, showing malware development absolutely exploding last year, over 10 times higher than the prior year. So in this video, I'm gonna explain exactly what malware is, I'm gonna explain the issues that it can cause, and then I'm gonna talk about if you should actually be worried and what you should ultimately do about it. According to this chart, cyber criminals have apparently created an average of 1,847 malware threats every day in 2020. Basically the most we've ever seen on macOS. So if you don't know what malware is, let me explain. Malware basically stands for malicious software, and malicious is defined as something intending to do harm. So basically, malware is any piece of software which is intentionally designed to harm, damage, or steal data from a computer. Now, one of the big issues with malware is that once it infects a computer, it begins to spread and cause even more damage, which can lead to your computer really starting to slow down or even losing some of your data. Way back in the day when I used to build and use Windows PCs, I struggled with this issue quite often, with malware slowing the entire PC down, giving you random pop-ups of stuff you shouldn't be seeing, and even worse, locking the entire PC up and trying to get you to pay money for some fake antivirus software, forcing you to completely wipe and reinstall Windows to finally get it fixed. It definitely wasn't a fun experience. But with that said, should you be worried about malware on your Mac? Well, the same study I talked about earlier also tested Windows computers, and the difference is shocking. As you can see, last year there were over 90 million new Windows malware threats created, which is over 135 times the amount that were created last year for the Mac, even though it was the highest year basically ever for Apple. And just looking at the Windows chart in general, you can see that Apple has always been much more secure, so let me explain why. Apple has always had a huge focus on security and privacy, so let's start with that. Apple products are very unique in the industry because they continue to get software updates for many, many years. Like for example, you can still download the latest iOS 14 software update for the iPhone 6s, which is now over 5 years old. And on the Mac, you can download Big Sur on Macs going all the way back to 2013, and making it even better, they continue to give you security updates on Macs that are even older than that. For example, they just released new security updates for the old macOS Catalina and Mojave software versions. And on top of that, macOS itself is just a whole lot more secure. Most changes to the settings and security options on your Mac require you to enter your password or authenticate to even get access to those settings, basically making it extremely hard for any form of malware to get into your Mac and start changing settings or deleting files. On Windows, you don't have that. So many people had issues with viruses literally taking over control of their computers. Apple also has security in place for third-party apps downloaded off of the internet, where you have to go into the settings and manually unlock the privacy section to even open the app, which is something that Windows doesn't do. Apple's latest Macs also have built-in encryption, which encrypts the drive and keeps your data secure. So going back to the chart, there's a reason why there's such a huge difference between the amount of malware on macOS versus Windows. Since Apple has always been so secure, it was never worth it to make malware for the Mac, because you could end up spending a bunch of time writing the malware code and never get anywhere. Instead, if those malware developers focused on Windows, the return on investment would be much, much higher. So that's exactly what happened. It seems like the only reason we're seeing a big spike within the last year is because malware developers can now purchase ready-made malware code and simply adjust it to their needs instead of starting from scratch. But the good news is that Apple has recently been making huge advancements in security and privacy, and they're not stopping anytime soon. A couple of years back, Apple updated Safari with a new feature called Intelligent Tracking Prevention, which basically stops advertisers from using cookies to track you across the web. And apparently, it's been doing an absolutely excellent job at protecting your privacy, like causing an ad firm to lose as much as $25 million in advertising revenue. And more recently, Apple's added a small little icon on your iPhone that shows when an app is accessing your microphone or your camera. And many apps have already been caught snooping in on users' privacy in the background. And now Apple is forcing developers to add a new app data privacy label on every single app on the App Store, forcing them to disclose exactly what they're tracking on your phone, which helps make iPhones even more secure. Going even deeper, Apple recently added a new pop-up when an advertiser or app wants to track you across the web, which basically started a war between Apple and Facebook, and long story short, Apple is winning and Facebook is starting to give in. So this shows just how serious Apple has been recently in terms of security and privacy. But now, I want to focus a bit more on the Mac. Going back to that chart, you'll notice that the amount of new malware being developed in 2021 has dropped significantly, only around 2,500 so far this year. This basically shows that the huge numbers last year were probably an anomaly. And I personally think that the malware developers are leaving for one specific reason, so let's get right into that. As most of you know, Apple is going to transition all of their Macs over to their own Apple Silicon chips. And if you didn't already know what that is, Apple is basically taking an iPhone chip, souping it up, and then putting it into a Mac. So the new M1 Macs literally have very powerful custom iPhone chips inside of them. And as we know, iPhones are incredibly secure, being very, very difficult to hack into. In fact, they're so secure that the FBI often has issues breaking into iPhones when doing investigations, and Apple refuses to help them because of their dedication to the privacy of their customers, going as far as to deny the FBI. Going further, the App Store is also really secure since it has very strict guidelines for app development, compared to the Android store, which will basically accept any app out there. And in a recent security comparison done by NordVPN, the iPhone won in basically every category, being much more secure. And all of that incredible security from the iPhone is now moving over to the Mac with the new Apple Silicon chips. The major benefit to this is that Apple now has full control over the software, the chip, and the Mac hardware all at the same time, making it more secure than ever before. In the past, Macs had a ton of security flaws due to the Intel chips, like Meltdown, Spectre, Zombie Load, and much more. And now that Apple has finally ditched Intel, they never have to worry about that ever again. And on top of that, the new M1 Macs now come with built-in system integrity and data protection features, and Apple is just getting started. So basically, the new transition to Apple Silicon chips is the best thing to happen to Apple security in a very long time, which is going to make it even harder for malware to succeed, and that's why I think the malware numbers dropped so fast going into 2021. So with that said, if you currently own an M1 Mac, or you're planning on buying one soon, or maybe one of the future M1X models, don't worry about this whole malware thing at all. Now, if you have an Intel-based Mac, honestly, you probably shouldn't worry about it either. We've been using them at the office and at home for the past 7 years, and literally have never experienced any problems with malware or viruses, being such a small problem that I've personally forgotten about malware ever since I switched to a Mac. But if, for some reason, you're still worried about it, there are some antivirus apps out there, like Clean My Mac X, which I think is one of the best apps out there for taking care of your Mac. And no, they're not sponsoring this video. Their app is just really clean and easy to use. But to be completely honest, I don't think that you're gonna need it, because macOS has always been very secure, and it's about to get even better once this Apple Silicon transition is complete. So finally, to answer the original question, no, you should not be worried about your Mac getting malware. So hopefully you learned something new from this video, and if you did, go ahead and click the circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one. Definitely check out one of those 2 videos right over there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.